Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to dive into a story that's wild, suspenseful, and a little bit fishy.
Oh, yeah.
Ready for this? It involves a home theater setup gone very wrong, a menacing couple, and a flying Filet-O-Fish.
Sounds like my kind of deep dive.
It's like a dark comedy movie just waiting to happen.
Definitely have all the elements.
So our source material today comes from Chris Hale, a home theater installer who shared his crazy experience online.
I read that one. It's a wild ride.
Okay, so let's unpack this story. We'll be focusing on Chris's experience, the client's actions, and how this whole crazy scenario played out.
It really shines a light on the challenges that service workers face, especially in those unpredictable in-home situations. You just never know what you're going to walk into.
Right, you're going into their territory.
Exactly.
So Chris works for a big box electronics retailer, and he gets this dispatch to a job in a pretty rough part of East Cleveland.
Yeah, not exactly the safest area.
Notorious, right?
Yeah, right. And the work order itself seemed pretty straightforward. Unbox a TV, connect it to a few components, and that's it. No mounting, no extra services.
And just to be clear, the TV was already at the client's house. It even said so on the work order, so he didn't have to deliver it.
Important detail. Yeah, this is going to come back later.
Oh, yeah, foreshadowing. So Chris gets to the address, and even before he knocks, he's getting this uneasy feeling.
Understandably, East Cleveland, especially that area, has a reputation. Other installers had told him stories about break-ins there.
Oh, wow. So he's already on edge, and it's after dark, too.
Yeah, not the ideal situation.
So he knocks, and this large woman opens the door.
Yeah.
She doesn't say anything, just waves him in. No, hello, no, nothing.
Interesting. That's such a break from normal social etiquette, right? It's like a subtle power move right off the bat.
Yeah, it kind of sets the tone.
Yeah, definitely.
Chris, trying to be professional, starts putting on his shoe covers, to be respectful, and he looks up and sees that the TV already set up. Kids are watching cartoons, the whole shebang.
Whoa. Talk about a red flag. It's completely different from what the work order described.
Total mismatch. And remember, the work order specifically said the TV needed to be unboxed and set up.
Right, so there's already this discrepancy, like something's not quite right.
So Chris, being a good worker, points this out. He's like, hey, the TV looks set up already.
I mean, what else are you supposed to say?
And he asks, why was I called out here? And that's when things start to go south.
Here, Rick.
The woman gets all annoyed and says, nah, you can put that TV up on the wall. But mounting the TV wasn't part of the original service agreement.
Classic bait and switch.
Yeah.
It's a clear boundary violation. And her tone, it just screams entitlement, doesn't it? Like she expects to get her way no matter what.
Total disregard for the agreement.
Whoa.
So Chris, still trying to keep things cool, explains that mounting the TV as an extra service costs an extra $100.
The old upsell. But she's obviously not having it.
Not at all. This woman just explodes. She starts yelling that she won't pay another cent and that Chris better get that TV up on that wall.
Wow. Talk about escalating the situation. Her reaction is completely out of proportion. It's like she skipped right past a reasonable conversation and went straight to aggression.
It's a major red flag, right? Like danger, danger.
Totally. And remember, Chris is in a rough neighborhood. It's already after dark. He's got to be feeling pretty uneasy at this point.
I'd be terrified.
For sure.
And just when you think things can't get any weirder, Chris suddenly feels this presence behind him. He turns around, and there's this huge, muscular dude just standing there, shirtless, arms crossed, staring him down.
Oh, no. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. That's textbook intimidation right there.
Yeah.
Make Chris feel uncomfortable, more likely to back down.
Yeah, like he's trapped.
Totally. And the woman, what's she doing during all this?
You are not going to believe this. This woman, like it's no big deal, walks over to the dining room, sits down at the table, pulls out a bag of weed, and starts rolling a blunt.
Wait, what? Right in front of them?
Right there, like it's nothing. And she's still yelling at Chris, giving him orders while she's doing it.
Oh, man, that's so disrespectful. It's like she's intentionally trying to provoke him to assert her dominance over the situation. It's almost like she's saying, my house, my rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like she's in control.
Exactly.
And while she's rolling this blunt, she starts demanding a refund. Like right now, on the spot.
Oh, this is getting good. It's like she needs instant gratification. And it's just not how things work, right? You can't just demand a refund on the spot, especially not for a service that hasn't even been completed.
Not to mention, it's probably against company policy.
Right, there's a process for a reason.
So Chris, in his calmest voice, explains that she needs to call the 1-800 number to cancel, and that the refund will go back on her card within 72 hours. He's trying to de-escalate, follow protocol, do things the right way.
He's definitely trying to reason with her, but it's pretty clear by this point that logic and reason are not going to work with this woman.
Yeah, she's not having any of it. She shoves a Bluetooth earpiece in her ear, dials the 1-800 number, and just starts screaming at the poor representative on the other end.
Oh my God. It's like a train wreck you can't look away from.
It's pure chaos. She's yelling about how Chris is refusing to work, that she wants her money back, like right now.
She's trying to create this whole public spectacle, put pressure on both Chris and the customer service rep. It's textbook manipulation.
Yeah, she's playing the victim, trying to get everyone on her side.
It's classic.
And it gets worse. This woman, with the Bluetooth still in her ear, spends the next few minutes going back and forth with the representative, all while slamming her arms down on the table over and over again. She's yelling, "Put my money back on my card! Put my money back on my card!"
It's like a broken record, stuck on repeat. And that arm slamming, it's like she's trying to punctuate every word with a mini earthquake.
It's like she's trying to intimidate everyone in the room.
Totally. And don't forget, the silent, shirtless dude is still just standing there watching this whole thing unfold.
Like a bodyguard to the crazy.
Right. You can practically feel the tension in the air.
And then comes the moment that you just can't make up. In a move that could only be described as absolutely bonkers, this woman grabs a McDonald's Filet-O-Fish sandwich off the table and hurls it at the wall.
No way. Seriously.
I am not kidding. She throws it right next to Chris. The sandwich explodes out of its box. Tartar sauce and fish go flying everywhere.
Oh my God. That is insane. What is wrong with this woman?
It's like a scene from a bad sitcom, only it's actually happening.
It's like she went from 0 to 100 in a split second. 1 minute she's yelling, the next she's weaponizing a Filet-O-Fish.
And through all of this, remember, the giant dude is still just standing there, arms crossed, not saying a word.
Oh, man. That's creepy, like he's her enforcer or something.
It's like a nightmare come to life.
Definitely.
So after the Filet-O-Fish incident, the woman still wearing that earpiece shoves the phone at Chris and yells, "He wants to talk to you."
What a mess.
But get this, the earpiece is still connected, so she starts freaking out. She's yelling, "Why can't I still hear him?" Like it's Chris's fault.
It's almost comical how she can't even figure out her own Bluetooth while she's creating this whole chaotic scene.
Talk about a lack of self-awareness.
Right. It's amazing.
Chris, bless his heart, tries to take control of the situation. He disables the Bluetooth, speaks to the representative for a minute.
He's got way more patience than I would.
I know, right?
So what does the rep say? They must have been able to hear all the commotion in the background?
Oh yeah, the rep immediately tells Chris to get the hell out of there. Like, no hesitation.
Thank goodness. Someone with a little common sense. They recognized how dangerous the situation was.
I'm sure Chris was more than ready to leave at that point.
Yeah.
Probably didn't need much convincing.
Not at all. A Filet-O-Fish to the face is a pretty good sign. It's time to go.
So the rep assures Chris that they processed the refund, everything's settled, and he can leave.
Good. Get him out of there.
Chris re-enables the Bluetooth, hands the phone back to the woman, and it's like, okay, I'm out of here.
He is a braver soul than I am. I would have been
Yes.
out the door the second that fish hit the wall.
I know, seriously.
So what happens next? Does she let him go peacefully?
Well, as he's walking out the door, probably relieved to be escaping with his life, the woman shouts at the representative, "You need to hurry up so that this boy can get on with his life."
Wow, that is cold. It's like she completely disregards his experience, the danger she put him in. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, so Chris's only purpose in life is to serve her needs.
Exactly. Like he's an inconvenience she has to deal with.
It's unreal.
Definitely a story for the ages.
So Chris, not wanting to stick around for another flying food incident, confirms the refund's gone through and hightails it out of there.
I bet he practically ran to his car.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And as he's leaving, the giant shirtless dude finally moves aside, but not without giving Chris this menacing look, just to remind him who's boss.
Oh, man. That's chilling. It's like a scene straight out of a horror movie.
So Chris gets out of there, thankfully unharmed, but definitely shaken up by the whole experience.
I can't even imagine. It really makes you think about the risks that service workers face every day, They're going into people's homes, often alone, and they have no idea what they're walking into.
It's so true. And this story really highlights how quickly things can escalate, how a seemingly ordinary service call can turn into a nightmare.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we need to treat each other with respect, even in those stressful situations, because you never know what someone else is going through, and a little bit of kindness can go a long way.
Wow, what a story.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
Let's take a moment to process what we've heard so far. And then, when we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into this wild encounter.
Looking forward to it. It's a truly bizarre story, isn't it? Like the aggression, the yelling, the Filet-O-Fish missile. It's almost comical, but also kind of scary, you know?
Yeah, it's like, what was going on in her head? What would make someone act that way?
That's the question, right? Was she intentionally trying to intimidate Chris? Was it a power play?
Mhm.
Or was she just having a really bad day? And Chris, unfortunately, just happened to be there.
I mean, we all have bad days, but I've never thrown a Filet-O-Fish at anyone.
Yeah, that's next level bad day. It makes it wonder about her, emotional control. Maybe she's got some anger issues or something.
Yeah, maybe. And what about the silent, shirtless guy? He didn't say anything, but he was definitely part of the whole intimidation thing.
Absolutely. His silence is actually what makes it so menacing. It's a nonverbal threat, adding to the whole we're gonna mess you up vibe.
Yeah, like Chris is completely outnumbered and trapped.
Exactly. And remember, this is all happening in a neighborhood with a reputation for being dangerous. Chris is stuck in this hostile environment with no way to know how far these people are willing to go.
It's like that whole the customer is always right thing taken to a terrifying extreme.
Right. It's like she felt entitled to whatever she wanted, even though it wasn't part of the agreement. And when she didn't get her way, she just resorted to aggression and intimidation.
This whole story makes you think about the limits of customer service. When do you say enough is enough and just get out of there, even if it means losing your job?
It's a tough call, right? You have your professional obligations, but you also have to think about your own safety. Companies need to have clear policies in place to protect their employees who are out there in the field.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Seems like Chris handled it pretty well, though. He stayed calm, tried to de-escalate, and ultimately followed the advice of the rep and got out of there.
he did. It couldn't have been easy either. Not everyone could have stayed so composed in that situation.
It also makes you wonder about his training. Did they prepare him for this kind of thing? Did they have any safety protocols in place?
Good questions. Companies need to prioritize their employees' safety, not just customer satisfaction.
So we've talked about the woman's behavior, but let's talk about the conflict resolution or lack of it. Chris tried to explain everything, follow protocol, but nothing worked.
Because she wasn't listening. She was operating purely on emotion. She wanted what she wanted, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it.
It's like logic and reason went out the window.
Exactly. It highlights the limitations of those traditional conflict resolution methods, especially when you're dealing with someone who's that irrational.
So what do you do in a situation like that, where reasoning just goes nowhere?
Well, de-escalation tactics might be more effective, you
Yeah.
know? Things like active listening, acknowledging their feelings, trying to find some common ground.
Do you think that would have worked with this woman, though?
Tough to say, but it might have at least bought Chris some time. Or helped him stay in control.
Maybe it would have prevented the Filet-O-Fish incident. Who knows?
Maybe. It's a good reminder that sometimes the best thing you can do is just remove yourself from the situation, even if the job isn't finished.
This whole thing really emphasizes the importance of trusting your gut. If a situation feels off, it probably is.
Absolutely. There's no shame in putting your safety first.
So where do we go from here? What are the takeaways from this whole crazy Filet-O-Fish fiasco?
Well, for one, it highlights the importance of communication. Being clear about what's included in the service up front could prevent some of the initial conflict.
That's true. It also shows how important it is for companies to have solid policies and training for dealing with dangerous situations.
Definitely. Give employees the tools and strategies to de-escalate and stay safe.
This story definitely gives you a lot to think about. It's a reminder that even the simplest tasks can go sideways, and human behavior can be so unpredictable.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen when you walk through that door. And speaking of human behavior, when we come back, let's delve into the power dynamics at play in this encounter. How did those contribute to the situation escalating the way it did?
Great question. We'll explore that and more right after the break. This whole story, it really highlights those weird power dynamics that can pop up, especially in service interactions.
It's like she's using every trick in the book to gain control over Chris and the situation.
Yeah. It's like she's got this whole playbook she's working from, right? Think about it. The silence when he arrives, that sets the tone. Then the yelling, the blunt rolling, the demands for an instant refund, it's all so calculated.
Exactly. And it's not just verbal either. Remember the physical stuff? Slamming her arms on the table like she's trying to punctuate every word with a bang, and then calling in the muscle the silent, shirtless dude. That's classic intimidation.
It's like she's trying to create this atmosphere of chaos and intimidation,
Yeah.
making it clear that she's in charge.
Yeah.
And poor Chris is just trying to do his job.
It shows how someone can exploit that power imbalance that exists in service work. The client's in their own home, they're paying for the service, they feel like they have the upper hand.
And that comment at the end about Chris needing to hurry up so he can get on with his life, it's so demeaning.
It's chilling, right? That one sentence sums up the whole power dynamic. She sees Chris as nothing more than an obstacle, someone who's in her way. His time, his feelings, his safety, it all means nothing to her.
It's really messed up.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize how easily things can get out of hand. A simple service call turns into this crazy, threatening situation.
It's interesting, though, because Chris did everything right. He stayed calm, he followed protocol, but it had zero effect on her behavior.
It's like his explanations just went in one ear and out the other. She was laser focused on that refund. Nothing else mattered.
So it begs the question, when logic and reason fail, what options does a service worker have? How do they protect themselves?
It's a tough one. You want to be professional, but you also don't want to put yourself in danger. I think the rep made the right call telling Chris to leave.
Absolutely. At that point, Chris's safety had to come first. It's a reminder that companies need to have clear policies that put their employees' well-being above all else.
No job is worth risking your safety for. It also makes you wonder how often this kind of thing happens. How many other service workers are out there facing these kinds of situations?
Probably more than we realize. We think of service work as routine, but this story shows that there's a human element that can be unpredictable and even dangerous.
It's a good reminder for all of us. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
First and foremost, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't hesitate to get out of a situation that feels dangerous, even if it means not finishing the job.
Your safety comes first, always. And I think it's important to emphasize clear communication. Companies should be upfront about what's included in their services to try to avoid these misunderstandings in the first place.
That's key. And lastly, let's remember that empathy and respect go a long way. Treating each other with dignity, even when things get tough, can help de-escalate a situation and prevent things from spiraling out of control.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary situations can take an unexpected turn, and that human behavior can be incredibly complex.
Definitely makes you think twice about those everyday interactions.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Let us know your thoughts on social media. And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.